Hello everyone, this is Shooter Fantasy. Today we're going to be going over a glitch in Super Mario Odyssey, and from the outside looking in, based on my experience in programming and game development, I'm going to try and explain what's going on under the hood. So the bug we're going to be looking at is the Talkatoo camera bug, which causes a few other different abnormalities alongside of it. So we're going to cover how this bug is executed, why it might be happening, and then cover the other abnormalities alongside it. So first we're going to cover how the bug is executed. This bug can be triggered in pretty much every kingdom that Talkatoo is in, but the Metro Kingdom shows off the abnormalities this bug causes the best, I feel. So to execute this bug, we need to throw Cappy behind Talkatoo and quickly initiate a conversation with him a split second before Cappy collides with him. Once the conversation is over, Cappy will hit Talkatoo, and then the bug will execute after a few seconds. The camera will lock and no longer be able to move. So, what's happening behind the scenes? Well, there's probably a true or false value that's stored in memory that says whether the camera is locked or not locked. So when the value is true, the camera will be locked, and when it's false, the camera will be allowed to move. Now that may not be exactly what's going on under the hood if we get into semantics. So regardless of anything, a value is more than likely saying whether or not the camera is being locked or not. When Cappy hits Talkatoo, after the dialogue is triggered, we get a few seconds where we're still free to move the camera before it locks. So this actually tells us something. And what it tells us is there's probably a timer in the background that's waiting to execute code related to the camera after the dialogue has been triggered. And Cappy hitting Talkatoo probably triggers code that can only be executed when this timer expires. So when the timer is done, it probably says, okay, let's execute some code. And then that Cappy hitting Talkatoo probably Trojan horses some weird combination of other code. And this code that's executed causes the camera to lock. Another weird detail of this bug, though, is that if you quickly turn the camera from Talkatoo after Cappy hits him, the camera won't lock until you look at him again. So the best I can describe what's going on here is that usually in a game, anything that's not being shown on screen is disabled. And this makes sense. A common tactic to optimize any game on any system is to disable anything that isn't on screen. It frees up processing power on the graphics card, the CPU. You may even unload stuff from memory. And this would also include any code that has that's triggering this bug in this instance. So when Talkatoo is back in frame again, the bugged code that Talkatoo uses is allowed to continue executing. So I've described what could potentially be causing this bug under the hood, but let's cover the abnormalities caused by it now. Namely, I've noticed that during the bug, you can no longer talk to Talkatoo. But if you start a conversation with another NPC, you get Talkatoo's dialogue, and then the proper dialogue for the NPCs being spoken to afterwards. So what causes this? Well, in programming, there's a concept of a list, or otherwise known as an array. And in the most simplified terms, it allows programmers like me to store a list of virtually any kind of data that is required. This could be a list of names, numbers, etc. And in the case of Super Mario Odyssey, it would appear that when you talk to an NPC, all its dialogue is added to a global NPC interaction system. So a way to think of it would be like a dialog box on Windows or Mac that requires a title and a message. Literally, if I want to make a message box pop up in Windows, I pass a name or a title, and I also tell it what I want to say, and I also tell it what buttons I want. So basically a Super Mario themed pop-up box is one way to think of it. So after the NPC is done talking, the data is probably cleared afterwards to make room for other NPCs to use the system so that they can, talk. But when Cappy triggers this camera bug with Talkatoo, there's more than likely code that re-adds Talkatoo's dialogue to the dialogue system, or possibly forgets to remove the dialogue from the list. This in turn causes the next NPC spoken to seemingly have Talkatoo's dialogue, before having their own proper dialogue. And it should be noted that after talking to another NPC, the camera bug goes away, and we can once again talk to Talkatoo properly. Now it's more than likely because the camera locking value and the dialogue data that executing this bug affects is being properly dealt with after talking to a different NPC. One last abnormality this bug causes is if you manage to get Talkatoo out of camera view and quickly look at him in the middle of a ground pound, Mario will actually freeze in mid-air. Moving the controller or pressing any buttons will of course unglitch Mario, but you'll still have to talk to another NPC to fix the camera in Talkatoo. So if you're interested in trying to execute this bug, I would probably try it sooner than later in case it ends up getting patched. It's even been used to help exploit the jump rope challenge as well, with people being able to reach the top of the leaderboards just by doing this glitch and leaving the game alone. So hopefully this video was interesting. If you guys found this video interesting, feel free to like, leave comments, give suggestions, that kind of stuff. And if you want to keep up with my future content, be sure to subscribe. So I'll see you guys next video or live stream, whichever comes first.